Hello everybody, this is Chris Knutson with Yaskawa Electric. I'm the supervisor of product marketing. I work in our product marketing group and manage our controller products. And today we're going to give you an introduction to MotionWorks IEC 2 software. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We do have everybody muted, so you don't have to worry about muting your phone. We would like to get chat questions. We keep track of those, and we make FAQs, frequently asked questions, out of those chat questions, and then we'll add those to the presentation and post the presentation on our partner site. So you'll be able to get a copy of the presentation, and we are recording this webinar so that you could actually have someone else just listen to and watch the webinar. So IEC 2 is, as you see the graphic on the screen, will be in both the Express and the Professional formats as we've had in the past. And the big difference that you'll see on the comparison chart between MotionWorks IEC 1 and MotionWorks IEC 2 is the support for Windows 7, which is an increasingly requested feature that we've heard, and we're now responding to the market. There is support for 32 and 64-bit operating systems, Windows 7 operating systems. The new software, MotionWorks IEC 2, will also run on Windows XP, and you have to have the Service Pack 3 installed for that to work. We have new part numbers. You can see the old part numbers were PDE-U, IEC, SA, and PA, and those designated Express and Pro. And now for MotionWorks IEC 2, you'll have PDE-U, IEC, IE2 SA, and IE2 PA. So this is important to understand. I'm on the next slide. MotionWorks IEC 2 is not an upgrade. You will need a new part number, which, as we just talked about, is IEC 2 instead of it's IE2 instead of IEC. There's a new software license. The old software license key will not work with version 2. The pricing is the same between version 1 and version 2, and we'll have more details on that. We have a slide covering that. Current customers will need to purchase IEC 2 when they transition to Windows 7. Why is this not an upgrade? Just some explanations on that. I think some people are more familiar with that type of some kind of an upgrade path. Yaskawa has some specific costs with Windows 7, which with each license. As you know, there's probably most of you know we're partnered with KW Soft for a IEC portion of the software. It's by going this way, it's very simple for us to administrate, and by doing this, we keep the controller costs very low. So those are just some reasons why we chose this path. It's easy, and it allows us to get that software out quickly. And we just want to mention, we think Yaskawa software is a great value. Just run down some of the reasons. No software maintenance fee. There's no runtime fees. There's free tech support. Free minor version upgrades. We haven't had any upgrade charges in 3 years since the inception of the software. We will have a free copy of the new software, the professional version, for any distributor that has purchased an IEC demo, the demo-MP IEC-Sigma 5, and we have online and in-house training that's subsidized by Yaskawa. I think a lot of you have probably gone to our online training. It's conducted by a third party, and we have great in-house training that is a great value. We don't typically really make money on our training. And we have a built-in web server, and that's a really big story that has been a really big winning story for us in a lot of the accounts that we've won. A machine builder's customer, like an end user, typically does not have to buy copies of the software because they can load programs through the web server. They can do firmware upgrades, and they can do a lot of status monitoring. So this has been a really big hit with maintenance. So compatibility, Windows IEC, the version 1 will not load on Windows 7. So that's probably going to be an FAQ. You know, will it even work at all? No, it won't work at all. Some other companies will come out with software and say, hey, you can try it. It's not tested. We know for sure it doesn't work on Windows 7, so don't try it. Don't tell your customer to try it. No upgrade will be offered in the future to go to Windows 7 if somebody has version 1. They will have to buy IEC2. Microsoft will eventually discontinue support for XP. We don't exactly know when, but we know that that will happen. So your customers at some point, if they're continuing to develop on the MotionWorks IEC platform, they will sooner or later convert to MotionWorks IEC2. Now it is compatible with both 32-bit and the 64-bit versions. We will have Nishant come on here and do a little bit more in-depth technical. And we have tested the side-by-side compatibility on Windows XP of having both version 1 and version 2. And the caveat there is you need Service Pack 3. And there is certainly backward compatibility. We allow for project migration. So if I have a project that was done in MotionWorks IEC 1, you can open that project up in MotionWorks IEC 2 and make edits and save it. It will become a MotionWorks IEC2 project, and you can't go backwards then. So those are some things to keep in mind, and Nishant will talk more about that. So just some benefits and support. Again, MotionWorks IEC still will include Windows 7, and all the free toolboxes are still available and compatible. And we have toolboxes that do a variety of things that can be downloaded, and those are basically pre-engineered sets of function blocks. We have free phone support. Future upgrades, minor upgrades are free, as they've been for MotionWorks IEC 1. And we will do continued development of features. And I think everybody knows that this software and this firmware and this controller is a development that's done in the U.S., and we're responding to market needs very quickly and continuing to add features to MotionWorks IEC. So that's a big deal. Free web server, again, I talked about it. OEM customers, the customers of OEMs, I should say, can load new programs and perform maintenance without software. So that's a big deal. We're not expecting somebody to always have to buy an extra copy of software just to do some simple tasks. No additional tool for archive upload. As we mentioned, you can upload those old projects from MotionWorks IEC 1. We have a lot of different ways you can buy the software. You can buy it on a CD. You can buy multiple licenses, and you can buy a floating license in the form of a USB key, which allows you to basically install the software on any number of computers and just move the key around, which has been actually a really big hit. And you can actually transfer licenses. Even if it's the CD version of the software, you certainly can transfer a license. There's an FAQ on our website on how to do that, and it's actually explained here again in the presentation in case you download this presentation in the future. But I'm not going to go through all 7 steps here. But that is possible if you have the CD version and you do an online registration. You can go back and transfer from one computer to the other. And I think in a matter of days, you should look for a official release email, and then the website will go live, and you'll be able to order these new part numbers and get this software to a customer. If in that time anybody has an urgent need for Windows 7, they can contact their sales rep, or they can contact me, Chris Knutson, and we can get something out even faster. But the official release will be triggered by this email that comes out to all of our channel that has a login and a password. So I'm going to take just a minute here and look at some of the chat and see if there's questions on the commercial side of this, and then Nishant will take over and delve a little deeper into the technical side of MotionWorks IEC2. Okay, very good question on how to support existing customer base that's out in the field that has MotionWorks IEC1, and it basically comes down to can you have both MotionWorks IEC1 and MotionWorks IEC2 installed side by side, and of course you would have to do that on Windows XP, and you'd have to have Service Pack 3. And then to support a customer that has a machine out there with IEC1, and you don't want to force him to upgrade, maybe he's fine with having MotionWorks IEC1 for a certain amount of time, you would continue using Windows XP. You could modify projects in IEC1, save those projects, and send them out to a customer. And then at the time that they wanted to migrate up to MotionWorks IEC2, then projects could be opened in IEC2 and modified there. So that's a good question. As that customer obviously moves on to Windows 7, then they would need to buy MotionWorks IEC2. We have another question. Is there a special volume discount for distributors, resellers that may have multiple sales support people? So what we have in effect right now is we are passing on a free copy of the software for any distributor or channel that has bought a demo, a hardware suitcase demo, and that is our program today. And so you'll get a free copy of the professional version when you have a demo, and other than that, distributors will buy at their normal discount. So we have a question on site licenses. We don't currently have a specific program for site licenses, and from my understanding of the typical term of a site license would be a customer that says, I have this facility at this address and I want anybody at that facility to be able to install the software. And typically what we have done in the past is sell multiple copies, and we worked through it. We are open to any of those kind of requests to work with you to make up a site license in some manner, using either multiple copies or in the most onerous case, possibly if it's a really big site, we may have to do some negotiations with our software vendor, but we definitely want to hear from you on those kind of requests. Another question, approximate release date. We expect in a matter of days to have our official QC review of all of our paperwork done, and then an email will go out as soon as that is done. So you're getting the most live, up-to-date information. We are one condition that we all decided on as a team here for putting on this webinar is that we wanted to be through all of our testing and pass all of our QC tests, and we've done that. And so now it's just some administrative functions inside Yaskawa, and that software will be available. The question about OPC server licenses, there is no impact on OPC server licenses. OPC server part numbers stay the same and work the same. They do get version upgrades as time goes on. So there's no impact of this software on OPC. You basically have to check OPC specs, and we will continue providing OPC server information as it comes available. The question, will we send IEC2 to those that previously purchased the demo automatically, or do they have to request a copy? And we will do our best to do that in the background, make that transparent. We'll work with our sales reps to get contact names of who that software will go to, and you don't have to do any requests for that. So those are some really good questions. If anybody has more specific questions or even suggestions, you certainly can call me or email me at Yaskawa. and certainly would be up for any of those kind of conversations. So we will move on to the technical portion of this so you can see some of the details of what's under the hood with IEC2. There is more than just Windows 7, but at the top level, Windows 7 is really what's going to drive a lot of changes. And so now Nishant will go through some of the more technical details, and I really encourage everybody to stay tuned on this because there's some specific things here that you may not have heard about that would help you with a specific sales situation.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everybody. So I'd like to touch on a few topics here, most of them semi-technical in nature. I'd like to go over some installation things. Chris already did talk to you about some of the installation key points to remember when you install the new software and what operating systems you can install it on, and so on. Some of the new features, we'll be going through some of the new features and some of the key points to remember when you upgrade or when you update 1.0 or 1.x projects to 2.x. We will also take a look at some of the upcoming new features that are part of the firmware and the new firmware that will be released soon. First of all, let's take a look at the installation. Here's a graphic of what you can expect or what you should know. Until now, we had Windows XP, support for Windows XP, Service Pack 1 and Service Pack 2, and you had MotionWorks IEC Express and MotionWorks IEC Pro. With the release of MotionWorks IEC version 2, we will have support for MotionWorks IEC version 2 if your PC has Service Pack 3 on Windows XP. And so you can have all 4 pieces of MotionWorks IEC software installed on one XP computer that has Service Pack 3. You can have MotionWorks IEC 1 Express and Pro, and you can have MotionWorks IEC 2 Express and Pro on a Windows XP machine that has Service Pack 3. On a Windows 7 machine, you can have MotionWorks IEC 2 only. You cannot have MotionWorks IEC 1 on a Windows 7 machine. So you can have only 2 flavors of MotionWorks IEC 2, the Express and Pro versions on a Windows 7 machine. We did answer this question earlier, side-by-side installs on XP machines. The only requirement on an XP machine for having all 4 versions of MotionWorks IEC is that you'll need Service Pack 3. Windows Service Pack 3 is a requirement. On Windows 7 machines, we're not sure when XP machines will stop coming out. Therefore, we recommend converting existing 1.x projects over to 2.x. There's no requirement, but once XP machines stop coming out, you will not be able to support any 1.x projects on new XP machines. So on a new machine, which would be Windows 7. So we recommend converting all 1.x projects to 2.x. Moving on to some of the new features in the editor. This is how your editor or your icons look like on MotionWorks IEC 1.0. And that has changed slightly with the operating system change. For example, this is again a screenshot of the new software on a Windows XP machine, which had Service Pack 3 on it. So the icons have changed a little bit, and I have highlighted some of the most commonly used icons here. For example, you have your project resource window, and you have your debug icon. Both those have changed slightly, not a lot, but changed slightly just in look. Most of the other icons that you can see here on the software basically look the same. A new look has been given to the function blocks. None of the inputs or outputs have changed. It's just a new look to the basic function block structure itself. The hardware configuration or the configuration tool has undergone a slight change in look. Essentially, the features have all been maintained. Some of the icons have changed a little bit. There has been a lot of requests from our customer base about incorporating the ability to put comments into the ladder logic area of the program, such that they could have the variable name along with comments on it. And that has been incorporated with an improved handling of attribute display feature. So if you go under extras options, you can basically set your graphical editor. There's a new Graphical Editor 2 tab that'll let you set additional information along with the variable name that you can set in your programming environment. And you can select what additional information you want. For example, here I've selected comments that need to be shown along with the variable name. And you can basically make your own, choose how you would like your variable to be displayed. One of the great features that will help in troubleshooting and maintaining programs while coding and also while troubleshooting after coding is the ability to turn on color codings on the coil contacts and coils. And these are selected based on the data type, based on the kind of the variable type of the particular contact or coil that you are using. For example, in this case, if an output is a global variable, it shows up with the green indicator color, and you can basically turn it on and turn it off. So this, when you're coding, this basically will help you understand whether you're using the correct format for a certain variable or not. Here's another look at how pieces of code would look like when you're going through the coding process. You would be able to distinguish between local variables and global variables based on the color coding. And so this is a screenshot of what you would see while you're making the program. And after the program has been made and compiled, and once you go into debug mode, this is how your ladder and function block variables would look like. So as you can see here, another feature is that even if you don't have variables connected to inputs or outputs, you would be able to see the value of or the status of those variables. So you don't need to have variables connected here to see the status of the variables that are going into the function block. Or you'll see later that that is true for outputs as well. And here's a screenshot of what the piece of code would look like when you're in debug mode and when the PLC is running. Another feature is that when you make your own user function blocks, you will be able to distinguish between inputs and outputs of user function blocks. For example, input variables can be seen or distinguished using the yellow coloration, yellow indicator, and local variables inside a function block would be displayed with a blue border, and all the outputs of user-defined function blocks will be in a salmon rose color. And this is the internal picture of a function, of a user-defined function block. Also, like I mentioned a couple of slides ago, function block outputs can display real-time value without having the variable attached. So you really don't have to have a variable attached to an output of a function block to see the value of that particular variable there. As you can see here, this is the screenshot of the read access, the read status block, where you can see that once the access is enabled, the standstill state is on, and I did not have a variable attached to the standstill output, but I could see that the access was in standstill at this point of time. And this is true even with the case of inputs. So if you don't have variables assigned to inputs, they take the default value, and the default value will be able to, the user will be able to see the default value if you're in debug mode. Another new feature is the ability to dock your windows. So if you have, let's say, if you have your project tree window and your edit wizard on two sides and you feel you don't have enough space for programming, you basically can dock those two and get more space on your POU editor window for more programming space. Drag and drop feature has been added to MotionWorks IEC 2. You could drag a variable from your programming space into the watch window. You can drag a variable from your programming editor window into the logic analyzer window. you can also drag a function block from your edit wizard into the programming space. So this basically eases your, it decreases the time it takes for you to program, or to, it reduces your time by at least a few clicks in development time. Another big feature is the continuous logic analyzer. So this feature allows you to run the logic analyzer continuously, real time, while the program is running, without having to specify a fixed number of points or specify a trigger condition and so on. So, I'm sorry, you can still specify a trigger condition, but you don't have to specify the number of points, or you won't get an error saying that the logic analyzer cannot capture so many points because it's beyond its range and so on. So this basically looks at how much recording space your PC has and then lets you record it continuously. So you can see bit statuses change, and this is a great tool in debugging and troubleshooting PLC logic. Another option, I don't know of a lot of users who've used this, but there is an option to include front-end code for user libraries. So this is a snapshot of the download window on MP2300s and MP2310s IEC controllers. So if you select to choose your front-end code for user libraries, the user, and you send it to another user, the user will not have to reopen and recompile the user libraries. So basically what this does is it includes the compiled versions of user libraries in the source code when you're downloading it into a controller. So when you send the whole project as an archive to a user, the user can basically upload it from the controller and use it directly without having to compile individual variables. So let's say you're writing for let's say you're an OEM and you're writing code. For example, toolboxes that include toolboxes, camming toolboxes or PLC open toolboxes. You can compile it and include it in the source code, so the user who's getting it does not have to pull it out and does not have to recompile or do any rebuilding on the project that he uploads from the controller. He can basically use it as it is. Another feature is hiding of formal parameters from the user function blocks. So let's say you have a function block which has two inputs to it. You can hide either both parameters or both inputs, or you can hide one at a time, or you can basically, you have the choice of editing the user's experience or the user's ability to see one of the inputs. And that can be done by basically clicking on the properties of the function block that is developed and choose a particular input to be hidden, and a hidden value can be given to it. And this can be a useful tool for debugging. For example, if a function block, you're worried about the input of the function block getting changed while the program is running, you could hard code this number and hide it from it being used. So you could hard code a number in there and troubleshoot it that way. This gives the user more flexibility in giving an end party if you don't want the user, and if you want to lock your IP on certain function blocks, you can prevent your user from looking at what the inputs of a certain function block are by restricting the properties of certain function blocks. This is a screenshot of how a two-input function block could be converted into a single input function block here by hiding one of the variables that was an input into the function block. A major feature is the easy update of changed user blocks. So for example, if you have a function block and the user went ahead and made a few changes inside the function block, and typically with version 1.0 of MotionWorks IEC, you had to basically go in, compile it, remove that old function block, put the new function block in, and continue. With MotionWorks IEC 2, you basically have the ability to update any altered function blocks or functions that you use. And all you need is to go to the Edit tab and update any altered function blocks and functions. And basically, you can change an old function block and give it new features by using this function. And also this feature helps in determining which function block interfaces have changed, if any. If you made changes, it can go and instead of doing a search and replace, you can now use this function to determine which function blocks have changed, and this function can be used to replace them as well. A big feature is the fixed addressing utility. A lot of you might have experienced some trouble when, let's say, you had Modbus or Ethernet IP variables you had in a project, and let's say you went ahead and changed some variables or deleted some variables, added new variables. You might have seen with the non-fixed addressing scheme we had earlier, some of these addresses would move around, causing some pain because you had to now go and clean up some of the variables. With the 2.0 software, we have introduced a feature or a utility in the software itself, the one that's marked here on your screen. Basically, that'll help you convert all your old Modbus or Ethernet IP addresses to the new fixed addressing scheme. So you do not have to go in and change the addresses anymore. You can basically click on this utility here, and it'll automatically update Modbus or Ethernet IP addresses to fixed addresses, so that you don't have to worry about having to manage changes in any of these addresses when you go from version to version, or if you happen to edit any Modbus or Ethernet IP instances or data blocks. So this now will put all your old projects. It'll take your old projects, and you can use this utility to basically bring all your Modbus or Ethernet IP addresses to a fixed addressing scheme where it'll stay forever at that fixed address. This makes HMI data management much more simpler, easier. You don't have to copy it into Excel and copy it back into the project and all that. So this is a big improvement. I'd like to talk about updating 1.0 projects now, converting them over to 2.0. The key points that you have to keep in mind when you deal with machines, XP machines that have both MotionWorks IEC 1 and MotionWorks IEC 2 installed, is that, as you see here in the picture, you will have different folders for MotionWorks IEC 2 and MotionWorks IEC Pro. They're not installed in the same location. They have different install locations. They have different folders for saving projects. They have different folders for saving libraries, and everything is totally different. So they have individual areas for individually demarcated areas for projects, libraries, and whatnot. So you have to make sure that the projects are saved in the right location. You should not. It is not recommended to mix and match projects in folders or in the same folder. So it is not recommended to save and store 1.x projects in 2.x folders or vice versa. It's the same with libraries. When you save user libraries like PLC Open Toolbox libraries or CAM Toolbox libraries, do not save them without paying attention to where you're saving them. Also, while converting, please ensure that the 2.0 projects do not automatically overwrite in the 1.0 project folder, which is the default. Basically, the project or the folder you're opening a project from is the default to where it writes or saves. And you have to be careful to ensure that when you're opening it up and converting into 2.0, please do not save it over the 1.0. Please make sure you maintain the two separate folders for projects and for libraries and all that. And also, a good idea would be to always ensure that a backup zipped format version of the 1.0 project that you're converting is always maintained on your PC. So I've briefly just explained the few steps that you have to go through when you are converting projects over from 1.0 to 2.0. So once you select the 1.0 project and choose to open it, you'll be asked whether you want to unzip the 1.0 project in 2.0 into the same folder. Select no, because you do not want to save the new project, the 2.0 project, in the 1.0 folder. You want to save it into the 2.0 folder, new folder that either you created or was created by default in the installation. So always you do not want to unzip into the same folder. You want to unzip it into a different folder. And then you can unzip it into a new folder that you create, or the default folder that MotionWorks IEC chooses, the 2.0 folder that IEC chooses. Then you'll get a message. Let's say you're opening up a 1.0 project which has user libraries or any other library that you created. There will be a question, there will be a window that asks you whether you want to convert the libraries in the same place itself. And again, you do not want to overwrite your 1.x libraries. You want to select, or you want to create a new folder with 2.x libraries, which is why you want to select no if it asks to convert them in place. And you do not want to convert them into the 1.0 library folder. You want to convert them into the 2.0 library folder. Right here. You want to convert them into the 2.0 library folder, and then select yes for conversion. It will even give you the version in which the toolboxes were created. So you can see here all the toolboxes were created with version 1 of the software. And you can basically say, yes, I want it to be converted to 2.0 at this place. And then once they're created, you can compile them and rebuild the new 2.x project, which is totally in a new folder completely. Some of the requirements, you want to make sure that the path length is kept to within 255 characters. This is basically a Windows restriction. You also want to make sure that the project name is less than 24 characters and that the project name and library names do not contain any blank spaces in them. Moving on, I'd like to just touch on a few firmware features that will be released with the 2.0 firmware. Before moving on to 2.0 firmware, I would like to just touch on some of the new features of the already existing 1.2.3 firmware that has been released, which is on our website that has been released. These three features here I'd like to touch on because I don't think we paid a lot of attention. These were part of the release notes for the firmware, but these are powerful features that you might find useful at customers. And this is a result of some of the feedback that we received from customers with projects. So basically, the function block called Y-Reset Absolute Encoder now clears the ACC alarm, which is the mismatch between the encoder and the drive. So the ACC alarm can now be cleared using the Y-Reset Absolute Encoder, which will enable you to do more of the absolute encoder alarm clear using the application instead of having to do part of it in the application and then having to do some more stuff using SigmaWin or in the drive. Now everything can be done using the absolute encoder clear, reset absolute encoder function block in the application itself. The Y-Reset Mechatrolink function block is now capable of performing soft reset on all servo packs from the application code itself. So let's say you make a change that requires a reset of the servo pack. That can be, the reset of the servo pack can be accomplished using the Y-Reset Mechatrolink function block. And to note here is that it can be done only on Mechatrolink systems. It is not applicable for the MP2600 IEC controller. This is applicable only for Mechatrolink type amplifiers or servo packs. There is also the high-speed output feature on LIO cards. Basically, the LIO1, 02, and the LIO6 cards have high-speed output features, which basically can be used to trigger an output based on an external encoder position at a fast rate, specifically within 13 microseconds of the external encoder reaching a certain position. This is also available on the 2600 controller output. A key feature to remember is that firmware 2.0, which is going to come out, is not required for the software 2.0 to function. Software 2.0 will function on firmware 1.0. So looking forward into the future, firmware 2.0, these are some of the new function blocks that will be coming out that you will see in your 2.0 software, but these particular function blocks will be supported only with firmware 2.0. And these are some of the few function blocks that I'd like to mention at this point. The first one is Y-Probe Continuous. The second one is a Y-Set RTC. Third one is a read multiple parameters function block, and then there will be support for position compensation for gantry systems. Also coming up in the future is basically Mechatrolink inverter support for in both the firmware and the software for Yaskawa VFDs. I'd like to talk about these few function blocks that you can expect very soon with the firmware. Basically, the white probe continuous function block will be used to support the continuous latch mode feature of Sigma 5. Those of you who have done high-speed position capture, high-speed position registration using the IEC platform have seen that it takes basically to enable high-speed position capture, you have to get the trigger configured, and then the trigger has to be armed, and it might take a few or at least 3 application cycles for rearming, capturing, and then rearming again for the next capture of the high-speed registration. This can now be done much faster with the probe continuous. There are some restrictions as to specific patterns on how the drive can be used for this function. More information is available in the help on these topics. This can capture up to a maximum of 8 patterns can be captured using this, and basically latches coming in at 500 microseconds, up to 500 microseconds fast can be captured by just without having to do all the rearming and the relatching in the application code. This is now done in the firmware level, so it allows for faster capture of positions. The set RTC function block allows the application program now to set the real-time clock, so you can basically set the clock using the application program itself. Read multiple parameters, again, is a function block that is being used, or that was brought up to increase the time or increase the performance, such that you could now capture multiple parameters at a much faster rate than having to use individual read parameter blocks to capture one parameter at a time. So this will basically, if this particular function block could be put in a very high-speed task, such that more parameters now can be read at once, and without it being a burden on the CPU. Lastly, I would recommend all of you to keep looking at the MotionWorks IEC software page on the website for any updates or any release notes and so on, just like you've been using the website for the 1.x releases. Once the 2.0 goes past, any upgrades and more information basically would be shown on the Yaskawa website for the software, similar to what you were seeing for the 1.0 updates. That's all I have for my presentation here. Let's open up the floor to questions.
So we're going to take just a couple seconds here to read some of the chat questions, and then we'll be answering some of the chat questions.
There was a question here about running the software on a virtual machine. Yeah, this has been tested. We have not encountered any issues. You can run it on a virtual machine. There was a question about, will this support online editing similar to Rockwell? I'm assuming you're talking about without having to click on debug mode on and off. The answer is no. You still have to go out of debug mode if you want to make changes or make edits to the program. You still have to go into debug mode to make changes to edit the software. There was a question about probe continuous and the meaning of a pattern. More details can be found in the help, and I can. If you want more details, I can give you more details on it. But basically, a pattern basically means that you cannot have. So let's say the Sigma 5 supports 3 external latch inputs, and a pattern means that you have to. There has to be a pattern in which these inputs come in. They cannot be coming in random. For example, you cannot have the first input coming in at ext1, and then the second one coming in at 2, and third one coming in at 3, and then the next one again comes in at 2, So you cannot have random occurrences of the latch. You have to follow a certain pattern. It has to be either 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 and so on, or 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 and so on. So that's what a pattern means. But I can give you more details. More details are available in the help manual, and I can give you more details on it. Again, the virtual machines, we have tested the virtual machine on Windows, on the Windows platform, and it works. There's no problem in using virtual machine on MotionWorks IEC 2.
Again, last questions about availability. Keep your eye out and watch for an email that will be an official release email to all the channel members we have that have a login. That'll come out within days from now, and then you'll be able to order. If there's an urgent need for Windows 7 before then, please contact your sales rep or contact me. If there's any other questions or problems that you have with anything that you've learned today, we want to make customers happy. We're not going to be sticklers on policy. We'll talk through any situations that you have. Either your sales rep or myself, Chris Knutson, on the commercial side, and Nishant on the technical side, and thank you all for attending the webinar.